Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Mira, estoy grabando estos vídeos para repasar para las oposiciones de secundaria de inglés en Cataluña. Ya veréis que hago referencia al decreto que usamos aquí, pero bueno, la información nos puede servir a todos. Las que tenéis que adaptar a vuestra comunidad autónoma. Me he decidido hacerlos porque me han ido súper bien los de Juan Antonio López, que he estado viendo un montón de él para repasar para los de literatura, que son los míos también, a mí me encanta, y me ha ido fantástico, sobre todo para irmelos poniendo mientras caminaba, mientras hacía otras cosas, para ir repasando. Entonces me he decidido hacer unos cuantos más, que son los otros que yo me he preparado, que no son los mismos que tiene él, y he pensado que me iría muy bien para mí y también para otras personas que se presenten a oposiciones. El primero es yo lo iré haciendo en inglés, aunque la presentación sea en castellano, ¿vale? Entonces el Topic 63, British Institutions, Chambers, Government, Political Parties and Election System and the Crown. Ya veréis que yo tengo un acento un poco mezclado, sobre todo tengo mucho de eje americano porque he trabajado un montón de años con americanos, pero yo aprendí inglés británico del sur, de Southend, y de vez en cuando leo se me escapa, así que veréis que de vez en cuando un poco mezclado. We start with the index for the topic, introduction, the crown, the political system, parliament, the cabinet and prime ministers, the House of Lords, the House of Commons, educational implications of this topic, conclusion, bibliography, and webgraphy. Remember to mention the most important information, as well as the new curriculum and the decree. If you're in a different comunidad autónoma, then mention whichever one you're using. The crown, right? So King Charles III became king in September 2022 after his mother passed away after 70 years of reigning in the UK. God bless Queen Elizabeth II. The head of the crown in England is basically a non-power position. They have some obligations. They make a lot of money for England because they're one of the best marketing tools that the country has, and that's why, aside from them being rich, coming from old money, it's also because of how much money they generate. If you've seen the Crown series in Netflix, you will have seen that, right? When they start getting out, being on TV, people following their life stories. So that's a lot and attracts a lot of people to the UK. As a king, His Majesty has different roles. He's the head of state, head of the Church of England. He's the chief in command of the armed forces. He's the head of the judiciary, and he's the head of the Commonwealth. His obligations are opening parliament in the fall or autumn, granting the winning party the right to govern. He appoints the prime minister, although it's not his choice. You know that the political party that wins is the one that decides who is the prime minister. But officially, the king appoints him or her. He also has the obligation of appointing judges and diplomats and signs laws passed by parliament. The king has the right to veto, but it hasn't been used since 1707, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check it out. Yeah. It was the last time that a king vetoed any kind of law, right? So nowadays, the crown is basically an organizing, a charity. On top of it, they give support to a variety of causes. They're the face of some of these causes, and the good standing of the royal family has had its ups and downs, as you know. Starting with His Majesty's affairs and all the drama with Diana, and now with the coronation for the new Queen consort. The people's interest in their lives, as well as the need to become relatable, has been very profitable, and Queen Elizabeth II was the richest woman in the world, and the crown's wealth is at its highest right now. The appearance of the family in movies and TV shows in Britain, it's its best marketing tool, and I would say now in the States too, with Prince Harry, who's moved there. The political system. The United Kingdom has evolved from having only two parties, the Tories and the Whigs, into a country with an extensive list of political options, such as the Sinn Féin, the Scottish National Party, Labour Party, the Green Party, etc. They're very varied. You have all kinds of ideologies, just like in Spain. So there's elections every 5 years. Anyone can declare themselves as candidates for prime minister and a member of parliament in their constituency. Constituencies are the different areas into which a country is divided for elections to ensure the population numbers are similar, right? So there's not like London, because it's massive population wins over smaller areas. I'm not sure about the rest of Spain, but the same is done here in Catalonia, right? So the bigger cities don't eat up the votes of the smaller places. So it's more or less the same. Our election system is based on the UK's. So it's very, very similar. On election day, you have to mark your chosen candidate on your poll papers, and the prime minister is the leader of the winning party in parliament. You don't vote that person directly. They're just part of the whole thing, but you just vote for the politicians in your constituency, and then the party decides who is going to be the prime minister. Once the winning candidate is announced, they move into Downing Street, 10 Downing Street, which is the official residence, and it's tradition that then the prime minister appoints the members of the cabinet who will help him or her rule the country. Parliament, it's housed in the Palace of Westminster. You can find the House of the Lords and the Commons in there, offices and all kinds of meeting rooms. Parliament, the word parliament comes from the French parler, which means negotiate. And originally, they were the High Council for the kings in the past, like in Henry's times. And this High Council has evolved and has turned into the House of the Lords. With the coming of the bourgeoisie and the merchants and the common man having more money and wanted to participate in political affairs, then the House of the Commons appeared, right? So they're two separate. We'll talk about it later. The cabinet and the prime minister. The current prime minister is Sir Rishi Sunak. He's a conservative. He's in charge of appointing the members of his government, and he answers questions in Parliament on Wednesdays at 12. So he does that every week, so anyone in the chamber can address him questions. The cabinet is formed by 25 senior members. They can be from either the Lords or the Commons. They usually meet in Downing Street, and they attend Parliament and answer questions as well. They have a rotation system assigned, so if you need to ask someone a specific question, you know what day of the week they're going to be available. The House of the Lords. It's basically formed by clergymen and the peers of the realm. Lord Temporary is the archbishops of York and Canterbury and other archbishops, and the Lord Spiritual are the rest of the peers of the realm. Its basic function is to debate, right? They suggest topics to be addressed in laws. They suggest amendments to bills. They basically are like a sounding chamber about what people are saying, and they discuss political affairs. They publish a magazine with their ideas, right? But it doesn't have any kind of legislative power. Then the House of Commons is formed by all MPs and the Prime Minister. As you can see in the picture, there's a big table in the middle. People whose turn it is to talk, they just stand at the table. You can see the front benchers who are sitting in the front row. They're the official speakers for each political party, and they're the ones who can address the rest. The back benchers are spaces at the back for other people who need to be there to vote for laws. And as you can see, it's really small, so not everyone can fit in there. And then on one of the sides, there's a strangers section, which is where the public and the press can watch the session. All right, so voting in political parties in the UK must vote unanimously. It's not like here where, you have some dissidents in your party and they vote a different thing. That here they try to do that, but it's not mandatory. In the UK, they have this figure called the whip chief, who's in charge to actually make sure that people attend. So they send you like a one whip if it's a non-vital voting, but you should attend. But two for you should come, and three whips for it's mandatory. Everybody has to be there. You all have to vote yes or you have to vote no. So he's in charge of making sure that people are there and they're doing the right thing. Most of the work, like here in the Catalan Parliament, is divided into committees, right? That they do all the talking, they prepare the laws, they do the research about stuff. They're the ones that discuss how things are going to turn out and come to agreements. And there are two different types of committees: the temporary ones, which are around 15 members of parliament. Then we have the permanent ones with 16 to 50, members of parliament, and they usually meet at Downing Street. Educational implications of teaching about British institutions in high schools. According to the decree 175/2022, it works for a lot of what they're asking of us in this new curriculum and degree thing, right? We have key competencies, right? So you can improve your linguistic skills, of course, and your citizenship competence. As you can see, some of them are repeated. So cross-curriculars, also citizenship, and digital, of course, because you can check all this stuff online. You can visit Parliament online. And then students can work on their specific competences, so diversity, democracy, mediation, and the 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And you work on your knowledge, al saber. Now, it's called that in the Catalan curriculum. You learn about the language and its speakers. You learn about communication. And you use it for reflection on you and your learning, reflection about the world and your knowledge of the world. It also goes with the 6 vectors, which are gender equality, universality, so all students can do the same activities, they just need to be adapted. Citizenship, of course, it's all over. Sorry, I just lost it. Quality language education, right? And a competential learning model. And those are the ones that we will be working on this. And then the Sustainable Development Goals, number 16, peace and strength in institutions, and number 17, the partnerships for the goals. What I would say in educational implications is that all this can be done through different activities. And I will give some examples, like, for example, get students to prepare a class for other schools in the school, comparing the Catalan system with the British one. They don't know either one. So it will be a good moment to have half the class check the Catalan, half the class check the English, and then switch and share between them. Prepare an infographic in Canva with all, the similarities and differences. They could record videos explaining things about it. They could take a virtual tour of Parliament as well. And another idea would be to learn about British history. For example, using shows like The Crown, so they get an idea of how things work and who the monarchs are and what they're for. And also they could apply it and participate in a real parliament talk, right? So we have the delegats and the delegados and all these figures in the school, and they do their work in their little committee, but the rest of the students don't see how that works. So maybe doing a campaign in school to be elected a delegate, having debates about certain topics in the class, forming their own political parties in the class. Or even if your school's really cool, you could sign up and join the UN's Youth Delegate Program, which selects delegates in different schools around Europe to participate in an assembly at the UN's headquarters in New York City. And that really puts it into perspective. You also have debate clubs, for example, the Vicens Vives debates that are celebrated every year for fourth of ESO and first of Bachillerat, which students could attend, and it's kind of practice for all of this. We could work on argumentative texts, both orally and on paper, so they would have to have their pros and cons, learn how to structure text, giving pro and con arguments, and basically use it to get them to talk in English about other things and about politics. You could be asking them to bring news about politics in Spain, news about international politics in Europe, see where things come from. It might be really difficult for some of our students because they basically don't even know that in their own language. So in English, it's kind of scary at some point, but I'm usually surprised by this because the ones that are not good at the language, but they might be good at understanding how things work. So Google Translator helps them a lot to be able to, prepare in advance so they can say something in class. And that's basically it. That's why British institutions might seem like a far away from our students, really, really far away from our reality. But it's clear that if you have an idea of how a parliament works in your country and in another country, it's so much easier to understand how things can be changed and how you can improve your life and your neighborhoods. Maybe even getting to know the Síndic de Greuges here in Catalonia would help them out with that kind of thing. And it would be just improving the language skills in general. Well, then the bibliography and webography that I've used is directly from parliament.uk, un.org for the development goals, and britannica.com for the history part of the essay. And then, of course, we can